Hey guys, welcome to the spoiler-filled section, and the first thing I'm gonna say, which I've been saying it for a long time, Tobey and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in the movie.
They're in the movie. We had to start off with that. They're in the movie.
They're in the movie, and so is Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, because he's not Daredevil in this movie, at least not yet, or it doesn't show it. But Charlie Cox is in the movie for about 15 seconds.
But the thing is, he literally said, whoever else wants to be Daredevil in the MCU is going to have to fight me for real for it.
Yeah.
And I believe that Charlie Cox is about to beat someone's ass.
Well, literally, and a week ago, Kevin Feige said, if you see somebody playing Matt Murdock or Daredevil in the MCU in the near future, it's going to be Charlie Cox. And he said that last week.
Yeah.
So, and with Kingpin being in Hawkeye, it was almost, plus the leaks and everything, it's hard to avoid the leaks.
Spoiler for Hawkeye.
Yeah, spoiler for Hawkeye.
I haven't even watched it yet.
I've seen it on Instagram. That's it, yeah. But
that's how I've seen it.
But yeah, Charlie Cox has a cool moment as Matt Murdock in this scene. So, or in his part of the movie. The movie opens up and everybody knows. So the movie opens up and everybody knows who Spider-Man is. It's complete chaos. Peter Parker goes back to his house with MJ and coppers come flying in, helicopters, and he's just like, it's madness.
It's funny to me.
It's chaos.
There's a guy who's they're trying to swing out of there, Peter and Mary Jane, and there's a guy trying to jump and grab a leg. It's like,
yes. There was a lady's like, you killed Mysterio? She goes, let me see your face. Let me see if you're really Peter Parker.
There's a giant screen right here with your face there. What else do you need?
But it does a good job because we're both not fans of Far From Home, but it makes sense, for the past 2 years after that, the ending of Far From Home where Mysterio does reveal Spider-Man's identity, you're left with the imagination of what happens after this. How is New York going to react? How is the MCU going to react? And it does a really good job of showing you the madness of what would happen if people really found out who Spider-Man was. Now that I think about it, they didn't do a court. He was never proven innocent or guilty of it. He kind of just went on with his life. Yeah, he just kind of became this guy. Everybody kind of knew that he killed Mysterio, but nothing legal really happened.
Yeah, he talked to Matt.
He lawyered up.
He talked to Matt Murdock, and Matt Murdock was telling everybody else, "Oh well, you guys need to get big lawyers because you guys got some issues too. But I'm just handling Peter. But you guys need to." And
it was also kind of weird. Peter had a different lawyer than everybody else. The movie seemed like everybody else needed their own lawyer. Why didn't they just all kind of use the same lawyer?
I don't know. Maybe because he's not that expensive. He doesn't even have a friend.
So because Matt Murdock is Tom Holland, Spider-Man's lawyer in this movie, and he's in the movie for realistically probably 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Not long. And he has this one cool scene where they hint at him having some type of special abilities, and they're in Aunt May and Spider-Man's Peter Parker's apartment where Aunt May lives. And everybody thinks that Spider-Man is a murderer and a criminal or everything. So somebody throws a brick through the window, and you think that Spider-Man is going to catch it because he has his spider sense, but no. Matt Murdock reaches his hand out and he catches the brick.
Did you see Peter and
everyone was like, yeah,
because
he was going to catch it. Everyone thought Spider-Man was going to catch it, and then he goes Daredevil. Well, he's not Daredevil. Matt Murdock just catches it, and everyone's like,
I just gotta say, the guy who threw that brick, he had to be playing on the Mets or something, because there's no way in hell they were on the third, fourth floor.
It was a good throw.
It was a great throw.
It was a good throw, and it came in with force.
It would have hit Peter straight in the neck.
But that was Matt Murdock's only shining moment, really, in the movie. And then what happens after that? Remind me.
They were waiting for it because they went to Happy's Happy House.
Yes, that's right. So they decided they needed to they needed to not stay where they were living anymore because everybody knew that he lived there. So they kind of went into hiding, they just went into hiding, and they stayed at Happy Hogan's, Jon Favreau's character's apartment, which is funny because what happens in the beginning of the movie with Happy and Aunt May?
They were breaking up.
So
and she was like, Aunt May was like, just a fling, and
it's a fling and it's over.
It's over. And he was like, I can be fun. You want fun? I can be fun.
So Aunt May is totally dumping Happy in the beginning of this movie, and Happy's all sad and crying, and it's It's really.
That's pretty
I wasn't
sad.
expecting it.
I wasn't
It was
expect-
sad, but
I mean, well, you kind of did in Far From Home. They kind of, she even said at the end, they had like a mutual breakup, like it's a fling. Even though he didn't want to do it, he was just going with it.
Right.
Like, yeah, it was just a fling, you know.
I forgot that part.
But this time she was like fully breaking up with the guy. And he was just
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do this.
And then Peter asked why, and Peter asked why, and she goes, "Oh, just boundaries and stuff like that." Like they didn't really give a good reason why.
He's
But
like, do you want fun? You want more fun? I can be fun. Like, I'm fun.
so
It
they
was
had
sad.
to move
It was-
into Happy Hogan's house, and they move into his house, and that's where you find out that he's kind of like in trouble with the law a little bit for stealing some of Iron Man's stuff, like misplacing it. So he has this full blown like crate of Stark Tech just like hidden in this one back room of his apartment, and then that gets explored later on in the movie, but you see that like kind of right away. That's when the three main characters, MJ, Ned, and Tom, they are trying to all get into the same college together, and they're not getting accepted into the college because Spider-Man's a vigilante. Everything is public, and everyone knows that that Ned and MJ are, you know, Spider-Man's accomplices, and everyone thinks that they're criminals. So they don't get accepted all to the same college.
Yeah, that was kind of messed up. But the thing is, too, about the whole Peter's identity being uncovered and stuff and how people treat him now. It's like when because the FBI comes in and tries to interrogate Peter and stuff like that. They say they had a warrant and this and that. And it's like, I don't know. It just kind of, the way that transitioned out of that, it went from they were being interrogated
Right.
to they're just back in the street just doing whatever.
Yeah, they
That was
didn't do like they didn't do a court or legal thing. Like they're in the police station getting interrogated by cops, and then that kind of
I feel like that happened in
kind of
between, though.
and that might be another thing that got cut off on the cutting room floor. That whole arc with the whole legal stuff that might have gotten cut out.
Because they went from
Of the
talking to
movie.
Daredevil, Matt Murdock, about, you know, being a lawyer and stuff like that, to straight to him going to school with paparazzi and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's like, is he off the hook? Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And this movie's long. This movie is 2.5 hours long, but there are a few parts. This one in particular is one of them, and we'll talk about some other ones later, because I feel like right now we're probably just going to break this down chronologically of what happens through the movie at this point. But there's parts of this movie where there is weird jumps where you're like, I think there was more to that they probably filmed, and it was left on the cutting room floor and got edited out just to, because the movie was already so long.
Yeah, I think if they didn't cut out those kind of plot points, I feel like the movie would have been like 3.5 hours.
Oh, it would have been
Maybe
3.5
close to 4
hours easy. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can tell, like, the movie is long, but you can tell stuff was cut out
Yeah.
because of just transitioning.
Yes.
It just didn't
Yeah.
flow.
So after they don't find out that, or after they rather do find out that they did not get accepted to MIT, which is where all of them want to go, Peter goes to track down this, like the dean of MIT or some counselor or something like that, to preach his case to why him and his friends should go to college. And then that is when Doc Ock
things went down.
attacks the bridge at that very moment. And it was really cool because he immediately starts referencing Spider-Man 2, the OG Spider-Man 2. And he asks Spider-Man, "Where's my machine?"
And then Peter's like,
He goes,
the
"What
hell are you-"
machine? Who is this?" And then he goes, "You know my machine, the sun in the palm of my hand." And it's just like, and the music that plays, it's just like the references.
Oh,
the music.
But the thing is, though, it's like later on he realizes that, or I guess he figures out that, you know, he's been taken out of his universe into that universe. But it's like, you're in this universe now, and all of a sudden you went from, because they made it seem like these villains that came in, they died right before the big plot points of their movies.
Yes.
Because Doctor Strange says all these villains died fighting Spider-Man.
Yes.
And so Doc Ock, he died, or he got transferred into this universe right before he died, right before he drowned in the water. Because he was like, I was in the water, I was choking him. I was choking Peter.
I was choking him. Yeah.
But he gets there, all of a sudden he's just in a different universe.
Yeah.
And he sees a different Spider-Man that looks nothing like the Spider-Man he was just choking out right before he got transferred. And he goes, "Where's my machine? Hello, Peter." It's like,
he goes, "Your fancy new suit." But he did kind of say, he goes, "You think your fancy new suit's going to stop us?"
But you're not going to question the fact that you were just choking the guy out to being here?
Well, who knows how much time went by for him. I mean, because nobody kind of really was, besides the 3 Spider-Men, besides Andrew and Toby, it seemed like Toby and Andrew knew what was happening. Like, they were there for longer than we saw them. Like, they might have been there for a day and they were just like, didn't know what the fuck to do, kind of.
Yeah.
And who knows, like, how much time they think, because it almost kind of seemed like each of the villains reacted to it a little bit different. They reacted to, like, getting portaled there a little differently.
Yeah, but you know, like he said, they all did it right before they died. Because even Electro, he said, "Oh yeah, I was whooping Spider-Man, and I was about to get him."
Supercharged me,
and then he's like, he supercharged me. And he was like, "Oh wait,
but
I was about to die."
Yeah, he did say that. He goes, "Oh wait, I was about to die."
Yeah, because he realized like, "Oh, I was about to die. That's why I'm here, right before I die."
Yeah,
and even Green Goblin, he said that too. He just got warped there.
I forget how Green Goblin, he didn't really get into depth. He didn't explain what was happening. Only really Doc Ock and Electro explained what they were doing before it happened.
Sandman didn't reference it either.
No. But, so going back to the fight scene on the bridge with Doc Ock does absorb Spider-Man's nanotech, thinking he's going to use it. He goes, and he was aware of what nanotechnology was.
Yeah,
you see that? He goes,
crazy.
Nanotech technology. He goes, "You're impressed me, Spider-Man," or something like that. And then you think that his arms are going to be all super powerful. But what really happens is that Spider-Man, he has his suit, like he has like a gizmo gadget thing on his suit where Doc Ock absorbed the nanotech, but now Spider-Man can't control the arm. So he's just like waving his hands like the Xbox Kinect back in the day. Like the Xbox Kinect.
But this one actually worked.
And then he's controlling Doc Ock's arms, so he like immobilizes Doc Ock.
Yeah, so he was like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? So now Doc Ock's actually using his limbs that he could barely function himself, trying to swing at Peter. He was like, oh.
Yeah, Peter's like controlling the arm, so he's like grounded. Doc Ock is like grounded, so he's just like standing in place trying to fucking punch Spider-Man, and he's just missing. He's whipping because I don't know, for some reason he was able to control Doc Ock's arms because they were covered in the nanotech, which was very misleading. Yeah, that was one of the misleading parts because the trailer didn't make you think that.
No, not at all. But because the trailer just showed.
Well, the trailer is meant to mislead you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is. But right after that, they think they're in the clear. It's like, okay, well, I got you now. We're going to go back to this and do this and whatever.
Yeah.
And then here comes Green Goblin doing his maniacal laugh.
Yep. So he throws the pumpkin bomb on the bridge and then he comes over the smoke. And then this is another part where I personally feel like it got wiped out was right when Green Goblin showed up, you just see like this weird like edit cut on screen that makes it look like it's a Doctor Strange portal. And it just blacks out the screen. And all of a sudden now they're in the basement of the Sanctum Sanctorum where they have Doc Ock in the prison. And it was a weird cut. Do you agree?
Yeah, because like, it seems like it just...
Like there was more to that.
They didn't explain if time went on or... It seemed like it was just like, you took me out of this fight.
Yes.
Because he still had a suit on. He's like, you took me out of this fight. I don't know, but when he got there... Doc Ock is he's in the prison already. And then they cut to Green Goblin in an alleyway with his helmet off.
So this is, I feel like there was probably more to this fight. Like when Green Goblin shows up, you see it in the trailer. When Green Goblin shows up on the bridge, it just wipes to black and it's just over. And then the next time you see Green Goblin, he's just in this alley, like his helmet is sitting on a dumpster and it's talking to him and he just fucking destroys it. But it's like the movie doesn't explain how he got there, what happened on the bridge. Did Doctor Strange wipe him away and throw him in this alley? It didn't really explain that, which makes me think that there was more to that got cut out. Oh, probably going to be deleted.
For sure. It probably will be deleted. I hope they explain it because that's one of the little nitpicky parts. It's like, how did this happen?
Nitpick for sure.
It's like, how did this happen? I mean, like in the movie, you don't really realize it until after the movie. You're like, wait a minute.
You're like, that was
when you're watching it. It flows enough to not really be like, okay, that was weird.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. It was a weird.
It was
cut.
odd.
Thinking about it.
It was odd. And talking about getting into Green Goblin because to me, Green Goblin. they didn't really lead you to believe that he was going to be as big a role as he was, but Green Goblin really kind of he was the main villain. He was the biggest villain.
He was the main villain. But if you want to go deeper, I don't know, I would say Spider-Man is the main villain.
It is interesting because Spider-Man is kind of his own villain in this movie.
But he's a villain to everybody else as well.
Even though you look at it as the villains, Green Goblin he's the main villain of this movie. But like you said, going deeper into it, Tom Holland's Spider-Man he's his own villain. He literally caused all of that for his personal gain. Yeah. Even Doctor Strange is like, you really just because your life is, a little messed up and messy, you want to make everybody else's worse too? Yeah. Yeah, and he explains, he goes, we've messed with the fabrics of reality to save half of the earth already. He goes, you want me to mess with the fabrics of reality just to, make it so people don't know that you're Spider-Man? And he was like, but then he remembers this forgetting spell, and then that's when Peter fucks everything up. So shortly after that, once they get back to the prison underneath the Sanctum Sanctorum, because from my previous videos about the spoiler from the trailer discussions, that box, that cube, I thought was going to be the prison. So the prison is actually underneath of the Sanctum Sanctorum. The box it's got a different use. It's got a different use. But when they're in the basement of the Santorum where the prison is, Doctor Strange pretty much tells them, hey, there are a lot more of these villains who died by Spider-Man, who hate Spider-Man, that got transferred here. You need to go out and look for him.
Yeah, this is your doing. Like,
so
I'm not getting involved in
this. He said, Scooby-Doo this shit. In the trailer, he says, Scooby-Doo this crap. But he says it twice. He says, please, Scooby-Doo this shit.
So, like, a little bit after that, now, when Peter is out looking for everybody.
Yeah.
And by the way, that black suit that you see in the trailer is just his suit inside out. It doesn't even look like that in the movie.
So they show like a little bit of like, there's like this like 1 minute like little montage of Spider-Man trying to be Spider-Man, but everybody hates him. Yeah. And somebody throws green paint on him. And he's trying to wash out his suit, and he just like, it looks awful. So all he does is he just flips that suit inside out. So that black and gold suit you see, it's just his regular suit. He's just wearing it inside out.
But they made it seem like it was like a Doctor Strange kind of.
But then how do the lenses work? If you just flip the whole thing inside out, his lenses wouldn't work the same.
It's true.
It's true.
I don't know.
But the movie just doesn't want you to think about that.
No, that's something you don't think about. But you see all the stitching and wiring.
Yeah, you see the wiring and all the weird stuff because his suit is high tech. So his suit's a mess. And then he FaceTimes his friend on an iPhone duct taped to his chest.
Yeah. Ned and Mary and MJ is just in the.
So Ned and MJ are back at the prison underneath of the Santorum, Sanctum Sanctorum, right?
Yeah,
Santorum. And they're FaceTiming him. They're like on a laptop and they're FaceTiming him, and he's like got it, and he's got the front camera so they can see everything that he's doing so that they know he's safe. And you notice something cool about the design of the duct tape.
The design of the duct tape. I mean, I might be, digging into it.
Might be a reach.
It might be a reach. But the design of the duct tape, because you don't really see the spider logo because the phone's there, but the design of the duct tape is coming across his chest and under to make it look like.
It almost kind of looks like a giant spider.
Yeah, like the Iron Spider suit, how it just goes and reaches around.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like
it could be a nod. It could be a nod, because I can see that.
Like, you still got the Spider-Man on the chest kind of thing, even though the phone is covering it. But I don't know. Could be a reach. Might be just doing a little bit extra.
So when that part happens, when Spider-Man is looking for these other multiversal villains, he's swinging on these huge electrical towers that have the electrical cables on them. And that's when you see Jamie Foxx Electro show up. And what was really cool was when he first shows up, he does kind of show up blue.
Yeah, when he's being zapped into it.
When he's being zapped into this universe through these electrical wires, the lightning is yellow, but his body is blue. And Tom Holland even says this blue guy showed up.
Yeah.
And then he shoots a web at him to try to, and it just goes right through him.
Right through him. Like it was nothing.
So the whole fight, Electro is kind of like that. He doesn't have a full body yet. He's just kind of like, and then Sandman shows up to help Spider-Man.
Yeah,
kind of.
That was interesting.
Sandman, if you remember at the end of Spider-Man 3, Sandman and Peter Parker, they leave on good terms.
Yeah, he's like,
Spider-Man says, I forgive you.
Yeah, and he's like, I just want to help my daughter.
Yeah,
I don't even want to do this.
I forgive you. And then he kind of just, which they don't really, because they say that these villains came here right before they died.
Yeah.
But Lizard didn't die. He went to prison. And Sandman didn't die. He just blew away in the dust. But movie doesn't want anything about that.
To be honest with you though, Jamie Foxx is a good actor.
Jamie Foxx, he had a lot of charisma.
He had a lot of charisma
in this movie.
I don't like the personality they gave that Electro. It's kind of boring a little bit.
He had the biggest character change as far as the villains go.
Yeah.
Because
he realized he didn't have anything he hated. He just like people suck. And at the end he was like, I don't even know why I was mad in the first place. Because even in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, people bullied him and stuff like that, but it's like, oh, I hate Spider-Man because he's trying to help me. It's why do you hate him?
Well, he hated Spider-Man at first when he embarrassed him in that Times Square bit. And remember,
he felt embarrassed.
That's why he hated Spider-Man.
But Spider-Man didn't really embarrass him, though. It was just, they recorded him.
He took his limelight.
He
took the stage away from him.
But it's like, you were destroying the city, and it's Spider-Man here. You kind of should expect that.
Yeah. But
the personality of Electro, not Jamie Foxx, but like Electro was kind of one track.
He had the biggest character difference. But one thing that I guess we can confirm is that all of these villains aren't like the villains that we know, but maybe from like a different timeline or different universe. But it was still these are in canon. The same Green Goblin that we saw die in Spider-Man 1, the same Doc Ock that's in Spider-Man 2. Like, these villains that show up are not like
the MCU version.
They're not like the MCU or like a different timeline or whatever. Like, no, these are the same villains, and the same thing with Toby and Andrew. It's the same ones from the movies that we've seen, and they make sure to specifically have, like, the villains have a dialogue. They're all in there describing like what happened before they died, or like the last thing they remember, and it all lines up with the movies and everything. So you know that they're not playing some kind of trick where it's like, oh, they were plucked from a different timeline or reality or whatever. It's like, no, these ones are from the movies.
Feast, they brought Feast into it.
The one thing with Jamie Foxx. So when Spider-Man when Tom Holland, he takes the wires off of the towers.
Yeah, so Electro is like pretty much just.
So then instead of being like this energy, he loses the energy, and then all of a sudden he gets a body. And it's Jamie Foxx. And then Spider-Man, Sandman, and Jamie Foxx have like this talking bit. And Jamie Foxx is like, all right, so you guys just gonna like look at me butt ass naked in the middle of the forest and like not say anything? That was one of the funnier parts of the movie.
Because the whole time they were talking, it was just showing him without a shirt.
Yeah, he was just shirtless.
They were just talking like nothing ever happened, and all of a sudden he just realizes like, I'm butt ass naked.
I'm butt ass naked. You guys are just like having this conversation with me, not saying anything.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh wait a minute, yeah, you're right.
And then Sandman's like, I didn't even notice. But initially, so Sandman thinks that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So he's like comes off as like knowing like, oh, we're on good terms. And then shortly realizes that Tom Holland is not the same Spider-Man. And then Tom Holland zaps Electro to put him in the prison, and then Sandman like has an epiphany. It was like, did you just kill him? Yeah. Like, did you just murder him? Like, I don't know you. Like, you're not the Spider-Man I know. Yeah. So then Peter Parker zaps him too. So that's kind of like what pissed off Sandman a little bit. But Norman Osborn, man.
Yeah. So now they're in Feast. This is the first time they even mentioned Feast.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was cool, but I think it was a little. I don't know. I'm so used to like movies talking about it before and then bringing it in bigger in the next movie.
Right.
We had no mention of Feast at all. The only mention of Feast we had was in the PS4 game.
Right.
And so now it's like Aunt May is like that lady in Feast. It's like how did this happen? Like,
yeah, that was like an overnight thing.
She was a.
I didn't really discuss in the other movies what she did for a living.
Yeah,
she just kind of existed.
She was just at home.
And all of a sudden now she's like this like manager at Feast homeless shelter or
Yeah.
in New York. Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe, he crushes it.
Oh yeah,
in
he was
this
crazy.
movie.
He was crazy. Because when you see him again, man, it's like, oh yeah, there's a guy here looking for Peter.
Yeah.
So he gets there, and it's him just sitting there at the table, like,
Yep.
just a normal guy, talking and stuff like that.
He's really at conflict with himself.
But
like
he sounds
doesn't
crazy.
like he doesn't want to be bad, but he is kind of like going mad.
It's his actual conscience talking again.
Yeah.
And then so they're talking about it and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, we think we can help him. He's he's a little bit crazy, but he just needs some help. And then the whole time you think he's good, and then all of a sudden he just switches right back to Goblin.
Uh-huh.
And the switch from him being like, I need help, and he was like, Oscorp doesn't exist. My son isn't here.
Yep. Someone's
Supposedly
living in
I'm
my
dead.
house.
Yeah,
It's like someone's living in my house.
Supposedly I'm dead. Like, and he was like, I don't know what the hell is happening.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, when Goblin comes right back out, he just switches right to evil, like crazy. Like, I was getting Joker vibes.
Oh yeah. So there's a moment where this goes with the box. So there's a moment where when they finally get all of the villains in the prison, in the basement of the, they called it a dungeon, actually, the dungeon of the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah.
That's when Doctor Strange has the box, and he has the spell that Peter fucked up in like this little ball inside of that cube.
Yeah.
And then he does whatever, the cube moves like it's like gears and stuff, and then a button pops out of the top. And what the button's going to do is just send everybody back, and they're going to live out their fate of dying right before dying to Spider-Man or something like that. And that's when Tom Holland's like, I don't think so, and steals it.
Because he's like, they don't have to die. He's being Spider-Man at the end of the day.
Yes.
Like, they don't have to die.
He wanted to fix them. He wanted to cure them, which they ultimately do.
That's like, I don't know,
does
that gave
what
me
he
Batman
wanted to
vibes
do.
though. Because that's something Batman would do as well.
What?
Like, they don't need to die. We can fix them.
Yeah.
Like he used the Joker. We can cure Joker. And it's
Right.
it was like, but it's not going to happen. Even the villains was like, no. And that's what Green Goblin comes back in. He's like, we don't need to be fixed. We don't need to be helped.
Yeah,
These
later
aren't
on.
curses. These are gifts.
Yeah.
Like, we're gods. Saying we're gods. And then that's when Sandman's like, you know what? I don't want to help him anymore. I want to be bad again.
Right.
And so everybody's
that
like,
was another weird
that
switch,
shit
too.
everybody.
Yeah.
And Doc Ock, he's just on his own, like, I don't want to do this. I don't care about any of you guys. I'm here for my thing. I want my son. Like,
yeah. So Spider-Man steals the box, and that's when they go through the whole mirror dimension and everything, and Doctor Strange breaks reality, and Spider-Man is doing all that. And then Spider-Man ends up trapping Doctor Strange in that mirror dimension because he's good at geometry and Peter Parker's smart. So he goes, this entire mirror dimension is just basically geometry. So then, like, he's just spinning a whole bunch of webs and actually winds up beating Doctor Strange in the mirror dimension and webbing him up and dipping out of there and left Doctor Strange webbed up in there.
which is crazy because you think about it, Doctor Strange held his own against Thanos.
Yes.
And Peter beat him using math.
And that's the point when Doctor Strange gets locked away in there. That's when this movie picks up.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Because now it's Peter. It's all him now.
It's all Peter.
There's nobody he can go to to ask for help. It's just all him.
And then that's when he frees all of the villains and takes them to Happy's apartment. He takes them home. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, takes all of these villains to his fucking house where he's living.
This is funny.
And he's gonna fucking fix them.
In the theater, this dude Trevor is like,
I'm like, this is
like,
so stupid.
Like, oh no, he's not. Like, is he taking him home? Like,
but that's exactly what he does. He takes him home, and then there's that box that Happy stole. And when you open it, it like transforms into like this workstation. It's like this workstation, and it's got a whole bunch of gadgets and a whole bunch of stuff. It's got extra arc reactors, which ultimately Electro steals to enhance his powers. He fixes Doc Ock. So this is where he fixes Doc Ock. Doc Ock was just kind of a pissy, fucking grumpy guy the entire movie.
Yeah.
And he remakes that chip, the what the
chip that pretty much, I forgot what it's called, but
like the neural link or whatever.
Yeah, it's what controls his arms and pretty much corrupts his mind.
It's what keeps him in control of the arms. And in Spider-Man 2, when it got destroyed, it was still destroyed in this movie. Peter makes him a new one, takes off the old one and pops on this one, and now Doc Ock is good, and he's good for the rest of the movie, which was kind of cool because, I mean, Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2,
he wasn't really evil.
He wasn't.
With the arms.
Yeah, he wasn't ever evil. He was only evil when he wasn't in control of the arms.
Yeah.
So he's trying to fix Electro. He puts this device. It's like a reverse arc reactor, almost kind of like that, like a Tony Stark arc reactor. It's like a reverse, though. Like it drains the electricity from him, and he has it. Jamie Foxx has it, and it's like charging up. It's like winding up like a clock, and when it hits 12 again, he's not gonna have his powers anymore. And then that's when they're trying to fix Goblin. Meanwhile, while they're waiting for Electro to stop, that's when Goblin, like Peter's spider sense, like his spider sense in this movie happened a lot, and it was what they did what they did with his Spidey sense in this movie was the first time it's been explained or showed like this. They did a really unique thing, I think, with his spider sense. Time slowed down, and there was like this rumble. There was like this rumble, and it was really cool. And then it was like you could almost feel it, like it was your Spidey sense.
Yeah,
and it was
you're like, what's going on?
And here? Like he's just walking around, and it's almost kind of like Flash time, like when Flash like goes fast and is like can see stuff, and people are in slow motion. That's kind of what it was like for Peter. Like everyone is just kind of still to him, and he's just like looking, and you hear the rumble, and he's like onto something. And nothing is happening, but he's still freaking out. And like it shows all of the villains,
and, like,
and then it shows him.
Why are you looking at me like this? Are you okay, Peter? Like,
and then all of a sudden, he webs Goblin to the wall, and then
he was like holding something.
Yeah, he was like holding something, like he was gonna steal it or try to. Was he gonna try to hit Aunt May or kill Aunt May, like with that thing? Because he was holding something and he webbed it to the wall.
Well, Aunt May was coming down the stairs.
Well, she was like fixing the cure for him. She was fixing the cure for. Oh, she was saging.
Yeah.
But remember, she got the cure for him. She was making the cure, and then he said, "Aunt May, run."
Yeah.
So I think he probably was gonna try to kill Aunt May
to try to get that dark side of Peter.
Yeah. Because
the whole time it seemed like Green Goblin was trying to get the dark side of Peter.
So he webbed Goblin to the wall, and that's when Goblin gives this monologue. He gives this like speech to all the villains, pretty much saying like, why are you letting Spider-Man try to fix you when you're only here because Spider-Man killed you? These abilities aren't a curse, we're gods. And then that's when Electro ripped his shit off and he stopped, and then Sandman was like, yeah, you know what, fuck Spider-Man. And everyone except for Doc Ock started attacking Spider-Man.
And then Lizard was like in the truck the whole time.
Yeah.
He just couldn't
and he broke out. But there was this is when there's this really intense, hard, brutal street fight almost between Goblin and Spider-Man.
Honestly, you know how in the original Spider-Man 3 is like Black Suit Spider-Man is like he's just out for blood.
Yeah.
This it seems like now, because Peter had his mask off like majority of the movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it seems like
it didn't matter. He was in his. There was a point in this movie where he was just in regular street clothes as Peter Parker, fucking webbing and landing, because everybody knew.
Yeah,
everybody knew.
So it's like Peter with his mask off is that more vengeful Peter, because he was bodying like he was taking some blood, because there was a moment when he was fighting Green Goblin, and then first of all, Green Goblin did this sick ass tackle.
Oh, there was several moments where Green Goblin just like pulled a UFC fucking move and just threw Spider-Man through the fucking floor.
Like he grabs him and like straight up body slams him, and he's going with him down like 4 levels.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God.
Boom, boom, boom.
And then they get back up, and Peter's like on top, and he's just like giving brutal elbows to his face, and he's just like wailing on him.
And there's that one moment in the hallway where Goblin is on the ground, and then Peter like bam, 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 and then he starts smiling
like Joker,
and it's almost like Joker in The Dark Knight when Christian Bale's just beating the shit out of Joker, and he's just laughing. They almost like that.
He
similar,
was punching his face like
and he
every
just looks up and laughs.
He's just looking at him, smiling.
Yeah.
the whole time. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Brutal. And then Spider-Man is like, he goes out a window during this fight to try to like catch his breath. And then fucking Lizard comes down and like fucking throws Spider-Man back into the room. And then there's Goblin waiting for him. And then Goblin just grabs him and fucking throws him through the ground again. Like he had no chance.
Dude,
like
Goblin was
no break.
Goblin was watching Spider-Man. I'm sorry. He was
several times in this
beating
movie.
him, dude.
Beat his fucking ass.
I was like, I've never seen, like, you don't see that combat, obviously, in the original Spider-Man.
No.
But this one, it's like, there's some combos in here. It's not just one little kick, you're flying, one punch, you're flying. No, there's back and forth, hand-to-hand combat. Well, I was like, oh my goodness.
It was... At the end of Spider-Man 1, remember when Goblin throws Spider-Man into like that abandoned building? They do have a pretty brutal fight.
Yeah, they're swinging, but...
Imagine that... But like this was fucking like
this seemed like
3 times
this
more
seemed
brutal.
choreographed for sure.
Oh, but you can feel every punch.
Because it felt like I'm telling you, when Peter was on top, giving him those brutal elbows and wailing on him, I was like, he's going in with these punches. He's not pulling back. I was like, usually they'll pull back, just do a few punches, and throw him. No, Peter was really trying to beat his face in.
Yeah, and then at that moment during this fight, this is when J. Jonah Jameson, he wanted to get dirt. He wanted to get like this dark side of Spider-Man to prove that he's a menace. So then all of a sudden, while this is happening, he knows that Spider-Man and these villains are here because of just all the fucking shit that's happening. So him and his guys from his TV station are going down there, and they like kind of like interfere and they instigate some stuff. And this is the moment where Aunt May is running away, because before this whole fight, Aunt May is running because Tom Holland told her to.
Yeah,
he said, Aunt May, run, get out of here, because he knew that something bad was going to happen.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Goblin comes in there, and he remote control calls his glider, and it fucks up Aunt May. It doesn't have the blades out, but it comes in and
you almost I almost thought that's how he was going to kill her.
I thought that how it was going to be too.
Yeah, like so straight stabs her.
Yeah,
and then she just goes flying to the wall or something and just impales her.
The blades were not out on the glider, but it did come in and fucking sideline tackle, fucking ear hold Aunt May.
She got messed up.
Well, it did. So Aunt May dies. Aunt May fucking dies. So she gets plowed by the fucking the glider, and then that's when Goblin hops on the glider, grabs one of his pumpkin bombs, and throws it to try to kill Aunt May. Spider-Man dives over, and fucking smacks that shit back. The room does fucking explode, but Aunt May doesn't die from the explosion, but debris, or she fell on something.
I think the glider came down and kind of sliced her.
She was bleeding. She was impaled or lacerated or something, but her side was...
Like she was bleeding out a lot.
She was bleeding out.
But she seemed fine the whole time.
She did, and she got up and then she delivered the line.
Yeah.
After that, she got up. You thought she was fine for about 3 minutes, that she was going to live. But you notice when she got up, she immediately grabbed that bag and was holding it on her side. She was like holding it.
She didn't want him to see.
She delivered the line word for word and told Tom Holland's Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. And then she falls on the ground and fucking dies.
That line hit though. I don't know. Like you would think it wouldn't hit anymore ever since Uncle Ben in the original, but it's like this hit differently though.
Yeah.
It's like before it's like, now it's like in original Spider-Man, when Uncle Ben said it, you're like, okay, Spider-Man, you're Spider-Man now. You have a duty. You have to fulfill it. This one is like, you're Spider-Man. These are the consequences of being Spider-Man. Now you have to own up to it.
Yeah.
And even Doc Ock or Green Goblin said it. Like he was holding Peter's head like he was about to snap his neck.
Yep.
Looking at Aunt May is like, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yep. Yeah.
And then that's when the glider comes in. And I was like, he's about to kill Aunt May, bro. Like,
and he did.
And he did. I did not think that.
Because Spider-Man does put the blame on Green Goblin. That, well, partially Green Goblin and then partially himself. But yeah, Aunt May delivers the line and she dies. And then this is at the moment, and this is where we can talk about Ned and his. So,
oh my God.
There's this. This is one of the nitpicks. I gave this movie a 9.1. This is one of the problems in the movie that kind of brings it down a little bit. Ned, Tom Holland's best friend, out of nowhere, out of thin air, all of a sudden is a fucking wizard. He has magic powers like Doctor Strange. Why? Because the script. Because
he mentions it like, oh yeah, my finger's been tingling sometimes. He's like, my grandma's been saying, you might have some like magic.
So there's this weird little line in the beginning of the movie where Ned is talking to Doctor Strange, and he's like, "Oh, so you're a real doctor?" He goes, "Yes." And then he goes, "My grandma's been saying that in my family bloodline, like we used to have magic, and I get this weird feeling in my fingers." And I didn't really think anything of it. I was kind of like, is that going to be something? And it fucking was. It was weird. Like, all of a sudden, Ned, he can open portals and like shit Dr. like that, like Doctor Strange.
Because he got the ring, because Peter took when he took the box from Doctor Strange, he
also took that ring from him.
And then Ned was like, "Is that the ring?" And then he just tosses it to him.
So yes, Peter Parker tosses Doctor Strange like knuckle ring to him. Ned puts it on, and then they do their high five, like a dap, and then like there's like a little spark. It was like it's like, and they're like, "Oh, that was cool. Like, what was that?" And I'm like, "Are they really gonna do this and make Ned a fucking?"
And all
wizard?
of a sudden, he was like, "I wish I could just see him right now."
And he goes, "I really wish I can just see Peter right now," because like so after the fight where Aunt May dies, J. Jonah Jameson,
it's like scolding Peter.
He did another podcast where he is just like saying Spider-Man and Peter Parker are a piece of shit. This is what happens when Spider-Man goes around, like chaos ensues wherever Spider-Man goes. And so Spider-Man just like dips. He doesn't want to talk to nobody. He doesn't want to, he just wants to be alone and just cry. And that's kind of like what he did. So his best friends, Ned is like, "I just want to see Peter," and then he like barely opens up a portal.
Yeah, and you just see it going. It's like
you just see it going,
and MJ's like,
and then it closes, and MJ's like, "What the fuck?"
He's like, "Do it again." He was like,
"I really want to see Peter Parker." He's like, "I really want to see Peter Parker," and then he opens up a portal, and you just see this dark alley, and then you see a figure that looks like Spider-Man, and he turns around,
and you just see the big
wide eyes. Dude. They're like, "Peter?"
And he's like,
"Oh yeah, like my name's Peter." So he comes walking in, and he comes into the kitchen where they're all at, and it's fucking Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
Right? And she's like, "Well, you're not Peter." He goes, "Yes, I am."
"Yes, I am." And he takes his mask off, and she's like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, why are you in a Spider-Man outfit?" And he's like, "I'm Spider-man."
Right? It's like, why don't you just tell people like something? She said something. He was like, "Well, I just don't go around."
He goes, "Prove it." He goes, "Oh, I just don't." He goes, "I don't have a card on me or anything."
Yeah, I don't carry around an ID, a spider ID or something.
He's like, "That would defeat the purpose of having a secret identity."
Yeah. And then she was like, "No, do something."
She's like, "Do something." So she throws a loaf of bread at him, and it just hits him. And then she's like, "Don't you have the tingle?" And he goes, "Yes, I have the tingle, just not for bread."
Yeah. He's like, "Well, do something." So he just jumps up, grabs the ceiling, and just hangs there.
Yeah, he's like just hanging there on the ceiling. And then she goes, "Crawl."
He's like, "I'm not gonna do that." She's like, "That's not enough." He goes, "This is more than enough." and then the grandma was like, "Well, tell him to clean the cobweb in the corner since he's up there."
So then he did crawl. He went and crawled across the ceiling. He's like he cleaned the cobweb. And then the Ned and MJ are like, "Well, that's not the right Peter Parker. We want our Peter Parker." She goes, "Well," and then he goes, "Oh, well, maybe I'll just do it until the right one shows up." And we're like, "Okay, we know where this is going."
Yeah.
So he's like, "I want to see Peter Parker." And then comes Tobey Maguire. Not in a Spider-Man suit, just in regular street clothes. Just regular guy. And he looked old in this movie.
Oh, yeah, he did look old.
Did he not?
He looked old. He looked like Eminem old. Like, he gave me Eminem vibes for a second.
He didn't have a beard or like 5 o'clock shadow, but he had enough stubble, and like you can just tell he was an old man.
You can tell he aged, but he looked like he went through some stuff though.
Yeah. But they're both in it, and then they look at each other, and Tobey Maguire sees Andrew Garfield, and he's like in a Spider-Man suit, and then both of their spider sense go off.
Yeah.
So then they both do the same flip. They both do the same flip, but like mirroring each other. They do a flip, they land, and they both shoot a web at each other. And they're like, what the fuck? You're Spider-Man too. You're Spider-Man. And then that's when they go and find Tom Holland Spider-Man, who's going through some shit.
Oh yeah, he's out for blood right now.
Yeah.
He's thinking, he's like, dude, I just want to kill this guy.
So
I don't even care.
So MJ and Ned, they go and find him. They're like, well, the Spider-Man and his friends are talking like, does he have a safe place where he goes when he's just like down and everything, where he can just, escape being Spider-Man? And then they're like, oh, mine was the Chrysler Building. He goes, oh, Empire State for me.
He's like, it's a better view.
And Tobey Maguire's like, that is a great view. But so they go to the high school, on the roof of the high school, because that's where I guess, that was kind of random, but I guess that's where Tom Holland Spider-Man likes to go.
You would think you go to like the Statue of Liberty or something.
But maybe because that was like the end of the movie, they needed to be somewhere else. Maybe.
But the high school building, that's like, wow.
It was a little weird.
I wouldn't go back to my school.
But Tom Holland is just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to send all these people home. I don't care if they die. Like, I don't care if they die. They're just going to go home. We need the box and send them all home. And then MJ's like, well, Peter, there's some people here to see you.
Yeah. He was like, what the hell? What?
He goes, what? Like, who's here? And then he looks up at the bell at the top of, was it a bell? It was just like the steeple of the school.
I think it looked like a bell, like something like that.
Something like that. It was like a steeple of the school. It might have been a bell. And you just see the two silhouettes of the two Spider-Man up there. And then they jump down. And then Tom Holland, it almost seemed like his Peter Parker, like he already knew what was going on. He goes, oh, like he wasn't.
He's like not surprised.
Yeah, he was not surprised.
He knew he had villains.
Yeah.
Of other Peter Parkers, so he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if they come here to fight these guys.
Yeah. So they just showed up, and he was not surprised, and he didn't even want their help. Like he did not want to hear it. Like he was like done.
He's like, yeah. When Andrew was like trying to tell him, like, I understand. He goes, don't tell me you understand what I'm going through right now. Like, and
then they inadvertently, they respected the fact that he didn't want to be told that they understand what he was going through, even though they did.
They went through
it. And they did say, like, hey, like, Andrew Garfield was like, I lost my girlfriend. Like, she died in my arms. And then Toby's like, yeah, I lost my Uncle Ben and everything like that. And they kind of, and then the cool moment was when Tobey Maguire's like, my Uncle Ben, he told me that with great power. And then Tom Holland and Toby, they say at the same time, comes great responsibility. And then Toby's like, my uncle said that right before he died. And then Andrew was like, my uncle said that to me right before I died. And then Tom Holland realized, like, my aunt said that to me right before she died. Yeah. And they like, that was when Tom Holland, like, it clicked with him, like, oh shit, like, we're all the same person.
Yeah,
we're all the same person, and they kind of explore that a little bit at the end.
Things happen, but we're the same person.
Yeah, they explain that the three of them have a conversation, but the chemistry between the three of them at the end of the movie, it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's like they knew each other for years.
Yeah, it was great. And Andrew Garfield is so fucking funny. At the end of the movie, there's this part where they don't. At first, when they're fighting the villains at the end, they're not working together well, so they kind of like huddle up.
Because they can't just say, Peter, do this, and everybody's like, huh?
They were calling like, Peter, you're Spider-Man, like, and they were like, they couldn't get it. So then Tom Holland's like, I'm Spider-Man 1. And then Toby's like, I'm Spider-Man 2. And then Andrew's like, oh, okay, I'm Spider-Man 3. And they just, he had so much, there was so much chemistry, but Andrew Garfield was so fucking funny. And just so much payoff and fan service.
Yeah. And they get into they actually get into the whole web shooter things. It's like,
yes,
he's like, I gotta make my own webs, and then Toby's like,
yeah,
what the hell is that?
It was like, yeah, it was like before when they were like so they went to the school like science room, like a science classroom or whatever, and they're like building shit to like help save the villains, so to make them not evil essentially. And they do the meme. They do the meme. So Ned's like, "Hey, Peter," and they're all three of them are like, and they're all pointing at each other.
Yeah?
They're like, "Huh? He's like, this guy,
Peter Parker." Is like, "Yeah, we're all Peter."
So they're all pointing.
Like this and this.
So they do it. They're not in their spider suits when it happens, but
you know what it is.
They do it. Yeah, they do it.
You can clearly know what it is.
So then they're getting ready to go out and find the villains. And Tom Holland puts on his suit and he's filling up his web cartridges, putting him like in his belt and stuff like that. And Toby's like, "What are those?" And he's like, oh, these are my web shooters. Like, this is how I shoot webs. And Andrew Garfield's like shaking his head. It's like, yeah. And then Toby's like, psst. And they all like kind of like look at him and freak out. They're like, what the fuck? They're like, this is weird.
Where did that come from?
And then they do it again later on. And then they ask him, of course, they were like, so like, it just comes out of your wrist? And he goes, yeah. And then Andrew Garfield's like, is that the only place where it comes out of?
Does it come anywhere
and
else?
Then, and they're like, does it come out of anywhere else? And he goes, nope, just my wrist.
That whole dynamic, it was perfect. And the part where Tobey Maguire was saying like, it's like, oh, I just gotta get a, stretch. And he's like,
yeah, my back.
And I thought of Spider-Man too. And he was like, my back.
My back. Yeah. He goes, oh, I just need to stretch out my back. And then Andrew Garfield's like, oh, well, I'll crack your back for you.
And he was like, he looks so relieved. He's like, yeah.
So they do the thing where they cross the arms, then he picks him up and shakes him and everything, cracks his back and goes, oh yeah, I feel good. That worked. Really good. The three guys are just fantastic, and they have the money shot where they're all web swinging on the side of the Statue of Liberty together, and they're like all web swinging three together, and it just looks really fucking awesome. So and then they all three land on the head of the Statue of Liberty. It's so cool.
It was dope.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I don't even know. Like I was the whole time, ever since both of them were in the same room together with Tom, I've been shaking ever since the whole movie. I just had a little shake because I
had permanent chills. Once Andrew Garfield came into the kitchen through the portal, I was like permanent chills.
Yeah, I was shaking the whole time. I was
movie.
like, dude, I can't contain myself.
Yeah, I had goosebumps the whole rest of the time.
And then like a little bit after, like a little bit more than half of the movie, I had to piss so bad. And I was like, of course, I didn't even drink that much of my drink. I was like, of course, I have to pee now, but I was like, I can't do it, and it didn't help because I had my arms crossed, and that was on my bladder. I was like, I'm not moving. I'm not moving.
There's no way. I'll piss my pants before I fucking get up now.
I'm not moving at all.
But then MJ and Ned are on the scaffoldings on the Statue of Liberty, and then MJ has her moment where she falls off, and then you see it in the trailer. Tom Holland, Spider-Man, Peter Parker goes to jump down to save her. And then here comes Green Goblin.
Like nope.
Like takes Spider-Man out.
And like it's like I appreciated that because in other movies when you see that happening, obviously the villain just it's like, what are they doing? Just sitting there watching? Like you threw her off the building. Like in Spider-Man 1, when Green Goblin had the choice between MJ and the kids, it's like, save your loved one or save the children.
He's just standing up there, and then when he saves both of them, he goes, ha! He's just standing up there, and his like eyes go, ha!
He drops them both, and then he goes down to save both of them. He's just standing there watching the whole time. I was like, dude, go after the other one.
Yeah. But so
this time he's like, nope.
Goblin fucking takes him out, and then Andrew Garfield has his like redemption. This is like his defining moment. So Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker sees this and he immediately jumps down and saves Mary Jane. And like you can tell it was the payoff because like he cries when he lands there and sees that he saved her. He does start crying, and then MJ asks
that was a tough moment because he caught her and he's like, you okay? She's like, yeah. And he sits there and he's looking at her while he's holding her, and he just starts bawling, and she goes, are you okay? He goes, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, like you had to watch The Amazing Spider-Man to get that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. You had
Otherwise you'd be like, okay.
Yeah, if you didn't watch Amazing Spider-Man 2, you would not have gotten that. Like the significance of why they did that.
I'm surprised Harry didn't come in from The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That would have been interesting, but I don't think his
as the Hobgoblin, and then the Green Goblin would be like, Who the hell are you? He's like, I'm Harry. He's like, you're not my son. That would have been cool.
That'd have been cool.
Like, you're not my son. I don't
think they did it because that Green Goblin wasn't very well received.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't very well received.
He was technically the Hobgoblin.
Or I think it was just Goblin, right? They just called him Goblin. Yeah. But his wasn't very good.
No.
But
it was a little weird. I mean, he's a great actor, that guy, but it was just weird.
Yeah. No, he is a good actor. He was in that one movie.
Something when he was like in the
Chronicle.
Is
that when they get the alien powers or something like that? Yeah.
That's the only movie people know.
And Spider-Man. When Green Goblin comes into the end fight, this is like one of the powerful moments because not only did Green Goblin help kill Aunt May, he stopped Tom Holland, Spider-Man, from saving Mary Jane. So he just fucking wants to kill Green Goblin. Like after Aunt May died, he just is out for blood for Green Goblin.
Do you think if MJ would have died, and her name is Michelle Jones, you gotta remember
Michelle
that.
Jones, not Mary
Michelle
Jane.
Jones Watson.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah. That's So she's still MJ.
Am I saying
Watson.
Mary Jane?
Yeah.
I'm saying Mary Jane. I mean MJ, but yeah.
It's Michelle Jones.
Michelle,
That's the MJ. I don't know why they did that, but it's whatever.
I don't
Disney.
know.
But do you think if when Green Goblin came in and swooped Spider-Man, if MJ would have died, do you think they would have just let Peter kill Green Goblin?
No.
You still don't think that would have happened?
No.
Because he would have went after him, like, for sure.
Well, if it were real life, yeah, fuck yeah, if it was real life. But I mean, it's a movie. The writers, I don't think the writers would have wrote that.
I think Andrew,
Spider-Man
though, I think
way.
if Andrew would have saw that, he would have just, like, let it happen. Like,
Andrew might have.
He would have stopped Toby, like, no, don't.
Andrew might have.
You gotta let him do this.
So Tom Holland's Peter Parker is just, he has a one-on-one fight with Green Goblin. And the other two Spider-Man, they're kind of just standing there. They're kind of like letting it happen. Because they're letting him have his moment.
But before that, Doc Ock comes up to kind of help a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he was like, Peter, and then that's when Toby was like,
yes. And they have a moment.
And they have a moment, and then Andrew's just sitting there, talking to him. And he was talking to Lizard. He was like, all right, we saved you. He's like, you just
well, remember he had that moment with Electro.
Yeah.
That moment with Electro.
Yeah. He's like, Max, man, it's like, you're not a nobody. Like, dude, you got gifts, dude. And then he was like, that's when he was like, honestly, dude, your swagger, the way you carry yourself,
your suit, you're from Queens.
I thought you'd be black.
I thought you'd be black. and then Andrew Garfield's like, oh, I'm sorry, man.
Then he goes, maybe there's a black Spider-Man out there somewhere. And I was like, that's a
nod to Miles Morales for sure.
For sure. He's gonna come in. Maybe they might even do a thing with the Into the Spider-Verse.
Good. He could. Because I think Tom Holland will probably show up at Into the Spider-Verse.
That'd be cool.
Or Across the Spider-Verse, whatever it's called.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think he might. But the Spider-Man had a moment, like Andrew had his moment with Electro, Toby had his moment with Doc Ock, and Tom Holland, this was a rough movie for Tom Holland Spider-Man.
He didn't have any of his villains in it.
It didn't have any of his villains in it. But going back to his one-on-one fight with Goblin, it's a just straight up just combat, like just dodging and countering punches and attacks, and then Goblin puts a blade on his gauntlet, and he's just like whipping this blade around. Whistle, like, woo. Yeah, he's like whipping this blade around, and Tom Holland just gets the better of him.
He's just beating his ass.
And Goblin gets on his knees, and he's just like almost out, and Tom Holland
just wailing,
whooping that fucking ass, and you just feel every punch, and he's just like boom,
he's coming boom, left, right,
and every punch he was getting angrier.
Yeah. Did you see the punch when he missed? When Goblin moved out of the way, but he punched the ground and left a huge dent in the fucking shield.
Well, there was ones where he would punch Goblin would back up, and then he would web Goblin, pull him forward, and kneed him in the face. And then he like jumped over him and fucking body slammed him into the ground.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this is the Spider-Man combat that I've been wanting to see.
Tom Holland went ape shit on Green Goblin in that end.
I didn't expect that fight to be that crazy.
Ape shit. He was going hard.
Like it was Black Suit Spider-Man vibes. That was that energy.
Yeah.
Black Suit Spider-Man energy.
And then when Goblin was like out, like when he was nearly out, Tom Holland Spider-Man grabs his glider with the blades out, and he picks it up, and he's just gonna kill Green Goblin. And then who comes in to save the day?
Fucking Tobey Maguire. Dude.
Fucking Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
He comes in, he's holding it. He doesn't say a word.
Catches it.
He doesn't say a word. He's just looking at him like.
Yep. He didn't say a single word.
And that look though is like, this is not you. You're not a killer.
This is not the way.
This is not it.
Because they're all the same person, and they recognize that they're all the same person. Later on, they say something. But in that moment,
they know it's not going to make him feel better.
In that moment, when he stops him, you see Tom realize, okay, I'm not going to kill him. And just at that moment, when Tom Holland has his like piece, fucking Green Goblin stabs Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and I know I gasped. I was like, I was speechless.
I can see it in the corner of my eye, and I just hear him. I was like,
because I'm like, they're going to kill him. I'm like, that's Tobey Maguire Spider-Man's done. Like, that's how they're going to end his arc. Like, he's dead. Like, he was fucking stabbed. But he doesn't. He lives.
Then he was like,
he's like, yeah, he gets up. So Andrew Garfield. Wait, how do they finish Green Goblin though? After he after he stabbed Toby.
Stabbed him.
What happens after that?
So Toby catches the glider, he gets stabbed, and then Andrew Garfield gets the serum.
That's right.
Throws it to Peter, and he catches it.
That's right.
Tom Holland, he catches it.
And stabs him right in his neck.
At first,
the goblin is gone.
I thought it was like something that he just picked up and did it. He just like, I'm still gonna kill you right in the neck.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's the serum. Never mind.
Right. Yeah. So they had like an anti-serum that made him like not Green Goblin anymore.
Yeah. So he
stabbed him with that right away.
So he was like, what have I done?
Yeah.
Like again, but it's like
Goblin's like, oh, what did I do? Like
you can't believe that because he did that before. Like, what have I done?
Yeah.
You know.
But then they have a moment, and then before Tom Holland goes to talk to Doctor Strange, who's trying to keep in the multiverse from cracking in on Liberty Island, Tom Holland thanks Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, like thanks them. He goes like, you didn't have to do that. And then like they both look at him and they're like, like you're Peter Parker, like it's what we do. And it was like, that was another moment where you kind of realize like they're all the same fucking person.
Yeah.
They're all Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So
they both got this shit when they were in high school.
Yeah.
At the same time. Well, I mean, Tobey Maguire was a little bit older.
Well, he was in high school. He was a senior in high school, but he was a little bit older.
He was a little bit older when he first got it. He was a senior.
And I think Andrew was either junior or sophomore or something like that. Yeah.
He graduated
in the second movie. He graduated
high school in the second movie.
Yeah.
And then Tom Holland's just been a kid the whole whole trilogy.
Yeah.
He was a senior. He's just now a senior.
Yeah.
Barely getting into a senior year.
Yeah, and he missed 5 years.
Yeah. Talk about a super senior.
But let's see. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, Doctor Strange does do the spell. The only way that the multiverse does not crash in the world is Doctor Strange does need to complete the spell that everybody forgets who Spider-Man is, or that Peter Parker even exists, really. Nobody knows that Peter Parker exists. Everybody at the end of the movie forgets who Peter Parker is. He knows nobody.
Like,
it's not really a happy ending.
It's not, because nobody knows who Peter Parker is nobody to anyone.
Yeah.
So what happens when he goes to school now? It's like, you're not on our records. We don't know who you are.
Right. Right. Yeah, because everybody knows who Spider-Man is still. Nobody knows that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but nobody knows Peter Parker. Nobody. Not his friends, his Aunt May's dead, and he goes to Aunt May's grave.
And Happy
Hogan shows up to mourn Aunt May, and he asks Peter, how did you know her?
Yeah.
So, and he's like, I know her through Spider-Man.
He's like, yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so weird, though.
Yeah.
I still don't understand that, but
it's not a happy ending.
I feel like it'll come to light eventually.
And then the movie ends with him making a brand new suit.
That suit was so clean. It was like a satin blue. It was like shiny.
It's the classic Spider-Man suit, but it was shiny.
And it didn't have any like.
No, it didn't have any separations or weird stitching
or integrations. Like the Stark suit had the little tech thingies.
Right,
it didn't have any. That was just
all
webbing.
Blue and red, and then the black webbing that he has.
It was clean,
very clean. It was hard to get a good shot of it because he was constantly like in motion the whole time. It was dark, but
I'm sure we'll get a still.
From what we saw, it was really nice, really clean, really clean.
It was clean, but
man, that was the whole chronologically through the movie. Was there anything else that you wanted to say? That any last thoughts?
I just want to talk about the movie aspect of it.
Okay.
It was pieced together really nice. Like, one of the best shots that I can think of was when he's looking at J. Jonah Jameson on the screen and it's raining and it showed his feet.
After
but the lighting was like purple and stuff like that. And he's standing there and it just like the way he's standing looking at the screen, I was like, this is a great shot.
That was right after Ame died, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It was raining.
Like, this is a sick shot because it looked like you know how we were younger and you think of a Spider-Man in the future, like how is Spider-Man gonna be like in the year 2020,
right?
And you're like, dang, this is gonna be futuristic looking as hell. Like, it's gonna be like a video game. And now that you see it, it's like it kind of did look like it was straight out of a game.
Yeah.
Because it was just like the way it looked. I was like, this is a sick shot.
And like that whole shot of like him standing there looking at this huge screen of J. Jonah Jameson, just like picking him apart and like telling him like why Spider-Man sucks. Like that was like a culmination of like everything. Like that was him standing there and accepting everything like that's happened to him, not just in this movie, but in his previous movies, what happened in the Avengers. That was him standing there just like, that was like everything came to that moment of him just being broken, like right there. Like, and it was emotionally that grabbed me. What you're talking about, that shot.
Yeah. It I don't know. It's like a lot of the pieces is like when you compare this movie to like Homecoming, Far From Home, it doesn't even compare.
Oh,
it does not compare. This is almost like Spider-Man got rebooted, and I feel like this is a reboot.
Little soft reboot.
I feel like it's a soft reboot because going forward, because Spider-Man 4 is already in development. I feel like it's gonna be like maybe not shot exactly like it because this was almost shot like Endgame. It's gonna be Endgame vibes.
Oh yeah, yes.
The way it was shot, but it was like this separated itself from other MCU movies. The tone was different.
The tone, it did not feel like.
Like when you see
maybe the first half, it felt like an MCU movie. But after Doctor Strange got locked away, it was a Spider-Man movie. It felt like a Sony Spider-Man movie.
It did. It
felt
like a Sony Spider-Man movie made by Disney.
Yeah,
like if the Amazing Spider-Man was made by Disney, that's what it felt like.
Right. No, that's exactly how it felt like. And I think they kind of partially wanted it to feel that way because they eventually do want it to fit the tone of Morbius and Venom and that whole thing. And like, that could be why they are shooting it that kind of way to make it make sense.
Yeah. To kind of match it a little bit. I want to hear your nitpicks though. What
my nitpicks? I don't like how Ned all of a sudden just got powers out of his ass.
That's my biggest one.
That didn't make sense to me. Sandman didn't really make sense. Some of him being bad was just kind of just like in it because of the writing. What other nitpicks? Doctor Strange in some moments to me didn't feel like the Doctor Strange that we know. Like he was almost like a dick. He almost did stuff that was a bit out of character.
It's like, dude, why are you so aggressive?
Yeah, he was very annoyed with nearly the entire movie. He was very annoyed. He just felt annoyed with the main characters.
Yeah.
So, but as far as that, I think the Ned, it was a little slow in the beginning, and Doctor Strange, his questionable character moments. But that's really it, man. I really, really enjoyed this movie.
The one nitpick besides Ned is this is a super nitpick, and this has always been my problem with this MCU Spider-Man. I liked with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Even though this was great, the action was great, and he did have his Spider-Man moments, he still didn't solo.
Right.
And that still annoys me because he's fully capable of soloing any villain for the entire city of New York. But he still had to have some kind of help. Yeah. That's why, and have you noticed too, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield came, there was like, I don't know what this is. We're not used to teaming up. I'm not used to teaming up. Right. I never teamed up before. And then he was like, well, I am. I'm on the Avengers. They was like, what the hell's the Avengers?
They're like, oh, yeah. The Tobey Maguire's like, that's great. What's the Avengers? He's like, you don't have the Avengers?
You have Iron Man? He's like, who?
Yeah. And then he's like, you're in a band? The Avengers is a band? Yeah, that Andrew Garfield was like that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that just tells you, like, we never teamed up before.
They did.
I'm used to doing this by myself.
They did give him that little moment at the end when he fought Green Goblin. That was like his one-on-one moment. But still, though, the rest was as a team up.
But Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield both had movies where they fought more than one villain at the same time.
Right.
Tobey Maguire had Sandman.
But that movie sucked. Spider-Man 3 was awful.
It wasn't awful. If you really dive into it, it's not that bad. It's just not what people wanted.
Oh no, it's not even what Sam
people
Raimi
appreciate
wanted.
it more now.
Yeah.
But still, he soloed both of them. And so, I mean, Hobgoblin came in and helped him a little bit, but he still was soloing both of them. Then, Andrew Garfield soloed Goblin and Electro.
And Electro, yeah,
by himself.
He fought them at different times, but yeah, two in the same movie.
It's still in the same night too.
Yeah,
but Tom Holland didn't have that.
He took on Doc Ock alone. He took on,
but that got cut short.
And then, he did have this one solo fight with Goblin in the middle, in that middle end of the movie.
I just want him to have a full movie to himself against like 3 villains.
He'll get it. Spider-Man 4.
If they come up with the Sinister Six, I want him against, because think about it, the Insomniac Spider-Man, he soloed all 6 of them.
Yeah, but he got his ass beat though.
Yeah,
he got his ass beat on the raft.
But he still came out on top after all 6 of them, and that's when he was like really like, oh, I'm in trouble here.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, the Insomniac Spider-Man to me is probably like the perfect example.
That's
the perfect example of Spider-Man.
He's the perfect Spider-Man.
That's comic book Spider-Man personified in a video game.
More experienced.
Yeah,
he's the perfect Spider-Man.
All right, guys, that's a spoiler-filled review. Anything less? This is an hour video. And anything else? Anything left?
It's a ride. It's not what people expected. Don't go into it thinking, oh, this is the same Peter Parker or this is the same Spider-Man from Homecoming and Far From Home.
No, yeah,
it's the same events, but it's a different movie. And if you look at it not only as in like Spider-Man as a character and Peter Parker, but look at it as the movie aspect of it, because it was nicely.
The music too, like
the music was great.
So the music during the mirror dimension part where Spider-Man is running away from Doctor Strange. The music in that part was very, very nice.
The music when he was talking to Doctor Strange too about the box and stuff, and Doctor Strange was like, "It's all in this box," and Peter was like, "I'm gonna have to take that."
Yeah.
But when they were talking, the music going on was like sinister, like dark, and like I was like, "Oh, this music is going in."
Yeah, it was deep. It was a good score. So this movie's got a good score. A good message. It's all around. I enjoyed it. One of my favorite MCU movies.
Oh, for sure.
I think top five, or maybe even top 3.
I might put it top 3.
Top 3.
So okay. My last question is, what do you rank this movie within all the other Spider-Man movies from Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire?
All right, here we go. You ready? Man, I might be saying this because I just got out of it and I'm super hyped right now, but I'm going to say No Way Home, number 1.
What?
Spider-Man 2 is number 2. And then Spider-Man 1 with Green Goblin is 3rd. And then I'll go Amazing Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then Far From Home and Homecoming.
Okay.
That's my list.
Mine's a little different. Similar, but a little different. I would still put
Spider-Man 2
Spider-Man
first.
2. Spider-Man 2 is my life. I don't know. It's just it's my life.
My childhood, yeah.
It's my childhood. It's everything is the movie that made me.
We're watching it right now, right?
Yeah, it's on right now. It's the movie. The train scene in that was just.
It's fantastic.
It's unmatched.
Yeah.
It's the movie that made me like, I'm all about Spider-Man for my life.
That puts superhero movies over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really set the bar. So I'm gonna put Spider-Man 2, then No Way Home. But I feel like I need to watch it a few more to actually set that in stone.
Yeah, same.
I'm just putting it after I've seen it. It's great. But to set it in stone, I have to watch it a few more times. But Spider-Man 2, No Way Home, Spider-Man 1, The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Amazing Spider-Man 1, Far From Home, and Homecoming.
So we had 2 that were different.
Yeah.
But
Homecoming is the worst one.
But still, Homecoming is the worst one.
Because it didn't even feel like Spider-Man movie to me.
I prefer the Andrew Garfield movies over the first 2 Tom Holland movies. Yeah, because those were Spider-Man movies.
Far From Home was only good the last part. The last
little sequence, yeah.
That was the
I think Far From Home started to get good once he went to that like warehouse and he did that whole weird dream sequence with Mysterio. And Mysterio was like tricking him in that warehouse, and then he got hit by that fucking train.
Yeah.
That was like where the movie like got good. Like that's you can start the movie at that point and then watch the end and like pretty much understand the entire movie.
I just don't
Far
like
From Home.
Why is that Mysterio? First of all, why is he so hellbent on Tony Stark? Because you got fired.
Right.
You're crazy. That's why you got fired. 2, it's all like illusion and thing. It wasn't like a mystical thing. Like I don't know. It's just more like CGI kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna trick you with some screens and cameras.
With some drones and holograms.
Like, he would be an excellent movie producer.
The whole thing, they were essentially a movie set crew.
Yeah.
He was wearing the CGI suit and everything.
Yeah,
They were a movie crew.
Like, dude, go work in Hollywood or something.
No, that's literally what they were doing. So that's exactly what they were doing. One other nitpick, I just had it here. Tom Holland didn't have any of his own villains in this movie.
Yeah.
There was no Sinister Six also. That's another nitpick. They led you to believe that there was going to be Sinister Six. There was not.
No Vulture, no Scorpion, who they cameoed.
Yeah, in Homecoming.
No Mysterio.
No Mysterio.
Supposedly, I guess he's not dead.
So, no,
Well, I mean,
he is dead.
It's not confirmed that he's dead. My theory was that he used another illusion to fake his death.
He could, but then Tom Holland used Edith to scan and see if there was any other life forms, and she confirmed that he was dead.
So,
but yeah, Tom Holland had no villains in this movie, so that's one.
For Spider-Man 4.
Spider-Man 4. Well, the post-credit scene, they did have Venom. They did have Tom Hardy.
Yet, though.
They had Tom Hardy there, and Tom Hardy does get zapped back to his dimension or his universe. But he did leave a little quarter-sized little droplet of the symbiote behind him. So that did not get zapped back to that reality.
So who do you think the main villain's going to be from 4?
Oh, man. Probably too close. It's too soon to tell, but...
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Kraven.
Well, he's getting his own movie.
That's why.
Kraven's getting his own movie.
That's why.
But so is Morbius. Well, who knows? Spider-Man 4 might be Sinister Six with just Tom Holland.
I hope so.
Yeah, Vulture, Scorpion, Morbius, Kraven, and Venom. Sinister Six, baby. Spider-Man 4.
Or
only Tom Holland.
Yeah.
We'll see. Because right now Tom Holland is still in the MCU.
Yeah, I'm just being
He did not finish this movie jumping to another universe. He's still in the MCU.
He has another trilogy.
Yeah.
Story. So it's supposed to be a 4, 5,
but
6.
Multiverse of Madness is happening, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this whole with Morbius, and why is Michael Keaton in Morbius? That's very weird. Yeah. And then the Spider-Man that's in Morbius is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So what the fuck is that about? I don't know. So anyways,
Multiverse of Madness might bring him into a different universe.
Yeah.
Along with the X-Men. And
they keep doing multiverse stuff, and they don't... The only thing that really did multiverse was Loki, like with the branch realities. But like even in this movie, they do the multiverse a little bit, but then they close it. They do close the multiverse.
I feel like it's not all really connected properly.
They need to find... Maybe they'll do it in Multiverse of Madness.
They don't have an end goal. I think they just want to do it, but they don't know what they're...
They don't know what property or what movie they're actually going to do it in. They kind of did it in Loki, and maybe the events of Loki is why in one of those branch realities there's an evil Doctor Strange, and that's where the evil Doctor Strange is now fucking with this Doctor Strange. Because spoiler alert, well, this is a spoiler-filled section. The Multiverse of Madness Doctor Strange 2 trailer is the end credit scene in this movie, and it's confirmed that the villain of Doctor Strange 2 is an evil version of Doctor Strange. So, time will tell.
It's going to be interesting.
Time will tell.
I mean, now, let's go DC.
Yeah, let's go. Batman. The Batman. Yeah. Let's go. All right, guys. Leave a thumbs up on this video. Share it with a friend. Let us know what you think about this movie. And subscribe if you're new. We'll talk to you soon.